What is needed is an entirely new order among nations based on mutual respect for the sovereignty of their people and the dignity of man. Our enemies are totally morally and financially bankrupt. So we must seize this moment to firmly establish a Republic of the United States of America which doesn't meddle in other nations' internal affairs, but demonstrates by our own actions within our own borders that truth has standing, that justice will be served, and the people protected, so that through their talents they may contribute to the betterment of mankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane Sayre. Let's do one more round of applause for Diane. The woman has so much courage. Next, I would like to invite Muhammad Salim Akhtar to the stand.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I give you this?
Oh, okay.
You speak closely to
Yeah.
the mic?
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, speak closely. Thank you.
In the name of Almighty God, the most merciful and the beneficent. It is so. First of all, I want to thank you, Diane, and I want to thank the organizer of this rally and all the friends to invite me to come and share my thoughts with you. My name is Muhammad Salim Akhtar. I represent the American Muslim Alliance. It's a national organization as the national director, and also American Muslim Task Force on Civil Rights and Elections. That is the umbrella of the major Islamic and Muslim American organizations. It is so heartening to see all of you and listen to all the speakers before me. And especially, I always wanted to see Mr. Scott Ritter, and I am glad to listen to him. We have all spoken, most of this spoken well about the danger of the nuclear war and what it has done in the past 78, 80 years ago, and what it can do. You know, most of the people think in the public, general public think that the nuclear is a deterrent to any war, which is not true. So I want to submit to you what we believe in, you know. First of all, the American Muslims, not only the American Muslims, but the Muslims all over the world, they stand in solidarity with you for the sole purpose of the peace and justice. And what we believe, what we believe is that's part of our faith, that if you kill a one human being, just one, it is like killing the whole humanity. But if you can save just the one life even, it is like saving the whole humanity. So with this belief, we are bound to stand in solidarity, not only the American Muslim, but Muslim across the world. Couple of the speakers before me, they already mentioned the Madeleine Albright. Okay. Yeah, to be exact, what he said when somebody asked that how many million or some plus some children who got died because of their actions. Was that what? And she said simply yes. And I have been wondering since then what as a Muslim, what I am raised and to believe. the respect and honor of the woman, because the woman is the one, her laps and her belly to endure and save the humanity. She is uh, she is the one who safeguard the culture, the safeguard the human values. And I was surprised how it could be become so bad that a woman who's supposed to nurture and supposed to protect the humanity, okay, that can come out from the mouth of a woman who's leading a whole nation in British in that case at that time, okay. But what I tell you, that what we believe, and with this is, you know, by the virtue of this belief, the whole Muslim universe, universally, that stand with you. What I want to submit with you is that we need to address the root causes of the war. We must address all the means, all the reasons, that can create the conflict between individuals, between groups, and between the nations. Now, every single organization, regardless if it is UNO, is a NATO, or any other organization, which is designed in a way that they are doing is a scheme and planning to undermine the less fortunate and the underdeveloped countries up there. And we must stand it and speak out. Now, there is a three-pronged strategy which we normally adopt, and I wish to submit to you what is the three-pronged strategy. Now, I divide it into that one is the mob politics, which we are doing now, is a rally. The other second is the advocacy. We need to do the advocacy into the masses in United States, town to town, city to city, state to state, and across the border, across Atlanta, in Asia, in Africa, to awaken the people of the danger. Because the common people think they cannot believe it. The human has a short memory. They do not remember that's what happened 78 years ago. It can happen again. So we have to awaken up the common people. So that's the advocacy we need to take out, and we need to do the diligent work. We believe, and we do, and we practice in a non-violent struggle. Our struggle is very non-violent. And the third and the last strategy which I may submit to you is that we must use our votes at the polling booth, but I call it electro-politics. When we choose the candidates from bottom up, from a municipality members of the municipalities, state assemblyman, state senator, all the way to the U.S. Senate, and then Congress legislators, and the President of the United States. We should be able to be bold enough and come out as a block vote, and then demand that we must take every single measure to alleviate those scheming and planning to undermine the majority of 95 to 98% of the human race, to have a uh, new colonialism, economic colonialism, and keep the underdeveloped countries, because economics is the reality that causes a rift between haves and haves not. We need to do every single thing. We need to have a voice up, and we need to stand up, and we need to do what we need to do is deliver the block votes from bottom to top or top to the bottom. Okay, these are the things we need to do. We need to continue to do the hard work. We need to explain that it is the possibility. We cannot close our eyes the danger of the mass destruction. We cannot close that eyes. Okay. In the case of the what's happening between the recent war with a conflict right now, and the only solution is the negotiations. After every single war, there has been historically people are people are bound to go to the negotiation table. Okay, if we really cherish the sanctity of the human life, we must insist our individual citizens, we must insist the lawmakers, we must become part of the decision-making process instead of we being led by legislators and the president. We must be in the area where we have our say so. Okay, so we need to become the part of the decision makers. We have to utilize all the avenues. It's good. It's very heart-thriving to see the people coming from different places of the nation. And I know there are some small and big gathering going on in many other cities across the world. Okay, but we have to do more than that. I again thank you so much. God bless you, and thank you for the organizer. Okay, and you all have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed Salim Akhtar, the National Director of the American Muslim Alliance. Very important that you were here today. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to welcome the president and founder of the Ghanaian American League of Friends for Freedom. His name is Amadou Diallo. Please come to the stage.
Thank you for coming. Let me give you this mic here.
Got it? Hello, everyone. I think we are a bit quiet here. I think we should know why we are here. We're here because I think humanity is on attack. And it's our responsibility not to be quiet. It's our responsibility to stand and say no to the destruction of humanity. No matter where it's happening, we will be held accountable if we do not speak out. We will be held accountable if we just sit there. Our children, our grandchildren, our great-great-grandchildren will hold us accountable. What do we do? What did we say to speak out against what is happening against humanity, wherever it's happening around the world? So we are here today to stand against wars across the world, wherever it's happening. So many have lived to see wars, to see the results of wars. We don't want to sit and be quiet without saying anything, without doing anything. Your voice might count. You don't know how far your voice will go, who it will reach out to, what that voice will move, who that sound will move. And that's the reason why we're here. If we become quiet, I guarantee you our children and our children of our children will hold us accountable one day. My name is Amadou Diallo. I'm representing the Ghanaian American League of Friends for Freedom. I'm originally from Africa, West Africa. I've lived, and my family have lived to see wars. We have seen how innocent people get destroyed. Women, children, elderly, the youth who's supposed to be future leaders, destroyed, have no hope. All of you guys have seen the war in Ukraine. You have seen the elderly. You have seen women and children creeping, holding their sticks. They have nowhere to go. No one to help them. I don't care who you be. If you look at that, your tears will run down. Are we just going to sit down and see the elderly creeping down, bombs coming on them, destroy them, women and children? We all have seen stories of children in Ukraine crying. They were with their dad when their dad bombs fall on them and destroy their parents. I have no parents today. Are we just going to sit down and continue to look and see the war continue to go? Wars are going on across Africa. They've been supported by different nations. Women and children and elderly are getting killed. Young people have no future. They are hopeless. And that's the reason why we're here today. No matter where you are, no matter where you live, you have the right to freedom and existence. Today, the consequences of the war in Ukraine, Africa is suffering. Europe is suffering. Asia is suffering. North and South America is suffering. Young people in these nations, in this world, this part of the world, have no hope, brothers and sisters. That's the reason why we're here today. We are calling upon the world leaders to come together and bring an end to this war across the world.
Yes.
No one wins, brothers and sisters. And that's the reason why we're here today. Peace for humanity. Peace for humanity is what's going to help us bring these leaders together so they can make the right decision and stop wars in Ukraine, wars across the world. For peace we stand.
Yes.
For peace we stand. And for peace we stand. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for an inspiring speech. And we need to think about the fact that there's really no reason for humans to slaughter each other on the battlefield over disagreements of ideas. All wars start with myths and misunderstandings. Then they are propagated by the lies of our governments and the media. Our next guest we are honored to welcome is Jude Ely. He is a presidential candidate from Haiti, a man of peace and kindness. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. It's an honor for me, first of all, to introduce Gloria Starkins, which is the Dean of UN, and some friends who flew from Japan to be here tonight with us. First of all, please join me in a minute of silence for the victims of war. I am Jude Ely. I'm from Haiti. It's an honor for me to be here to address you at this important and historical event for war and peace. The Haitian community and the diaspora and my homeland asked me to convey our deepest gratitude for this effort for peace. Today, I'm here not just to advocate for world peace, but to start change in my own country, Haiti, which is in turmoil. My heart is heavy, like the heart of all good friends of Haiti. It seems the world has turned a blind eye to Haiti's suffering. Haiti fames is not rooted in its poverty. It is in its story. 1804, Haiti was the first black nation who ended slavery and spread the light of freedom through the world. Why now? Why are we one of the most contentious and troubled nations? Why are we scratching the bottom of the barrel? Haiti is in dire need of unity, inspiration, transformative action to be able to be stable and have peace. Sustainability and equitability development to all cannot reach without true peace. To the world, I say, enough is enough. Enough is enough. It's time for action. Action to eradicate violence. Action to eliminate disparity and injustice in all its forms. War is not the answer. We do not want war. We yearn for peace. And I want you all to repeat that we don't want war, we want peace. We don't want war, we don't want war, we want peace in Haiti. We want peace all over the world. Peace and prosperity for all can be achieved with reality of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from fears, food safety. Again, I'm here to tell you all that we will be part of this movement to rebuild Haiti against the war. We don't want war. Haiti is one of the largest countries in the world. To my fellow Haitians, I, Jules Ellie, I strongly believe all together we will be able to rebuild this nation, make Haiti safe, make Haiti strong with all good friends of Haiti. Together we're stronger. We are one in the search of peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good.
I'm gonna grab your mic.
Please do.
Thank you so much. We must learn to respect sovereign nations. We must agree that they are as empowered and as important as all nations across the world. And we must realize that American imperialism is not beneficial for the overall global humanity. It is my honor to introduce our next guest. He is a Republican 2024 presidential candidate. Aaron Day, thank you so much for speaking.
Justice, Michael.
Okay.
Right there.
Can you hear me?
speak right into the microphone.
My friends, we gather today on the brink of disaster. The doomsday clock stands at just 90 seconds to midnight, the closest we've ever been to annihilation since the height of Cold War tensions in 1953. The Russia-Ukraine war edges us closer to nuclear confrontation. We've seen the devastation. Entire cities reduced to rubble, millions displaced, and civilians killed. From Kiev to Moscow, the fighting rages on. The U.S. has approved over $67 billion in military and economic aid to Ukraine, while steadily expanding NATO eastward in violation of the spirit of the agreement following the end of the Cold War. Russia threatens nuclear retaliation if the West intervenes directly. Yet hawkish politicians downplay the risks, even suggesting limited nuclear war is winnable. But as Eisenhower warned, you cannot have this kind of war. There just aren't enough bulldozers to scrape the bodies off the streets. Sisters and brothers, we stand at the precipice of oblivion. Just a fraction of the thousands of ready warheads ignite global annihilation. So I ask you, is this the world we wish to leave our children? A world forever poisoned by radiation, with survivors struggling atop the smoldering ashes of civilization? Or can we yet summon the wisdom and courage to pull back from the brink? On this solemn anniversary of nuclear destruction, we condemn the heedless rush towards war. We mourn lives sacrificed in all conflicts fomented by imperial greed. And we vow to reclaim America's destiny, not as an exporter of violence and war, but as a beacon of hope. Like Dr. King's dream, everyone here shares a dream that one day all people will stand together and say no to the warmongers driving humanity to extinction. We know this dream is possible because we see the seeds of unity here today. We are parents, teachers, students of all races, faith, and background, yearning for peace. We've endured endless emergencies together, lockdowns, mandates, censorship, and crushing inflation. We've awakened to the truth that real power resides not in Washington, D.C., but in we the people. Our elites want us to believe that we are powerless, that only elections can bring change. But voting alone has failed because both parties are controlled by the banks and the military contractors, not the people. We cannot vote our way out of endless war and suffering. I am speaking to you here today as a Republican candidate for president, not to ask for your vote, but to ask instead for you to join me in an act of radical noncompliance. You know, and I know that the winner of the 2024 election is going to be the same that it has been since 1948, the military-industrial complex and the banks. Nor as we stand in front of the United Nations can we expect the inevitable march towards one world government to be the solution, as much as Oppenheimer and others may have believed. Indeed, the consolidation of power by NATO, the UN, and other groups like the World Economic Forum ends in complete global tyranny, where every movement is measured and tracked. Behavior is rewarded and punished as determined by a small group of self-interested elites, and free will itself is surrendered to the New World Order. This dystopian nightmare built on fear and control will not make us safer, happier, or more fulfilled. My friends, since Eisenhower's warning decades ago, the military-industrial complex has metastasized to a beast with a voracious appetite. Last year, total U.S. military spending exceeded $800 billion. The Pentagon is missing trillions and has failed 2 consecutive audits. We have over 800 bases in 70 countries worldwide. And who are the beneficiaries of this war machine? Corporations like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Boeing, and a long list of politically connected defense contractors who meet in dark, smoke-filled rooms who have made trillions in death and destruction. They deploy their army of lobbyists to ensure the river of cash keeps flowing, no matter the human cost. The banks are just as complicit in this web of violence and greed. JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and others have arranged billions in loans funding the Iraq war in Ukraine, profiting on interest in enabling military adventurism while crippling nations large and small around the world. These banks have not only harmed us as a nation by funding both sides of endless war, but as individuals. Their predatory practices have exploited minorities and the poor, and their crimes against peace are assault upon humanity itself. They impose racist redlining and predatory loans on Black and Hispanic families trying to achieve the dream of home ownership. They aggressively market high-interest private student loans that can't be discharged in bankruptcy, trapping generations of students in permanent debt serfdom to banks. They close bank accounts of political activists and stifle dissent by controlling our access to financial services. And all of us here today are likely targets. They are not our friends. So we must take nonviolent action into our own hands and forge a new future based on free will, abundance, and love. But before we do that, we must defund the war machine, stop World War III, and regain financial sovereignty. How many here show banks distrust or dislike big banks? So we are unified, both in wanting to stop the destruction of humanity and in a shared distrust and dislike of banks. The big banks fund the unholy trinity of weapons manufacturers, paid-off politicians, and military contractors. We must unite to excise this cancer before it's too late. I call on all people of conscience to unite in a common cause I refer to as fiat exit or fix it. Fiat is government-issued currency like the US dollar, backed by nothing, worthless pieces of paper with no tangible value. IOUs from a corrupt government that has lost the confidence of its people, creditors, and ratings agencies. Exit, leaving the corrupt financial system controlled by central bankers for non-government alternatives like gold, silver, and crypto. Fiat exit, or fix it, is a boycott, a mass exodus of our dollars into self-custody alternatives. Banks are now Ponzi schemes that print monopoly money out of thin air. Banks are no longer required to hold any customer deposits in reserve. What this means is that a small percentage of people converting dollars into alternative stores of value can halt the entire system. Starve the beast. This is how we defund the war machine and regain control. Some label this call for peaceful resistance too radical, but those in power will call any challenge to their profits too extreme. They said the original American revolutionaries were too radical, that abolitionists and civil rights leaders were too radical. If radical means going to the root of injustice, then we must be radical. My friends, as detailed in my book, The Final Countdown, if just 3% of us convert our dollars to alternative stores of value, we could collapse their entire house of cards. Fiat exit ends the tyranny of central bankers who manipulate our currency and enable endless wars. Future generations will tell the story of the day we found our voice and said, enough, the war machine ends here. The Fiat Exit Manifesto calls for mass noncompliance to reclaim our destiny. It is a call to action all citizens should read and can be found at day2024.com. It has already been read 1.1 million times, and I will read an excerpt from it now. Fellow Americans, the time has come for us to unite and take a stand against the encroaching threats of World War III, financial collapse, political persecution, censorship, and global tyranny. We must recognize that change won't come from protest or the political process. It demands our collective courage to engage in mass civil disobedience. Let's come together, boldly say no, and take action to dismantle the corrupt system that seeks to undermine our freedom. We must starve the fiat currency that fuels war. By embracing crypto, gold, and silver for day-to-day commerce, we can challenge this monopoly and secure our freedom. Separate money and state. Our call to action is simple. Participate in an exit of fiat currency, exchanging your dollars for alternative access like cryptocurrencies, gold, and silver. Then tell 3 others to do the same and encourage them to spread the word to 3 more people. Just as the 3% of the population who fought in the American Revolution made a profound impact, so too can we transform our society through collective action. The time is now. Join us in this vital act of noncompliance and reclaim the destiny that belongs to each and every one of us. Are you ready to withdraw your consent and take back your power?
Yeah.
If everyone here who hears this message, whether here live in New York City or one of the 19 sister rallies from Austin to Austria, Germany to Guatemala, Chicago to Chile, or citizens streaming this worldwide, if everybody took heed, we could end the war machine within weeks. It's up to we the people. Let them hear us. Fix it now.
Fix it now.
Let them hear our voices across this land. Fix it now. Let them hear our voices in Kiev and Moscow. Fix it now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron Day. We must remember that the military-industrial complex is not here for the benefit of humanity, and we must remember that we the people have the power. It is my honor and privilege to introduce the next speaker. He is a 2024 Libertarian presidential candidate, a friend and a colleague in liberty, Mike Termont. Thank you so much.
I need a microphone. How are you all doing? I have one thing unpredictable to say, and then everything else I say is going to be completely predictable. I'm not a big fan of Republican politicians,
Speak right into
but I do like to be interrupted during my talk, so this is going very well for me. I'm not a big fan of Republican politicians, but I got to say that guy Aaron Day is growing on me. How about a round of applause for a guy who has the guts to come out here as a Republican? Everything else I have to say is completely predictable. My fellow Americans and fellow citizens from around the world, you already know exactly what I'm going to say, as though you could read my mind. And I know that you can read my mind because you can read my heart. And I know that you can read my heart because you know my values. You know my values because I, like many of you standing around here today, am an American. Being an American means that we believe in a set of ideals, and a set of ideals that defines us as a nation, not a culture, not a race, but a set of principles that has made our nation what it is when it is at its best. A set of principles and a set of ideals of which we fall short when our nation is at its worst. Ideals like immigration and the opportunity that it promises, independence and the responsibility that that implies, multiculturalism and the tolerance that that demands. In this nation, there is no room for a government of control. There is no room for policies of aggression. There is no room for an environment of intimidation. Just as we must demand the best version of America, so too does the world long for the America of our ideals. We know the world yearns for the sound of idealism because in its silence, evil has grown. Evil grows in the hegemonic projection of power. Evil grows in the imperialistic control of foreign people. Evil grows in the despotic arrogance of nation building. The world awaits a new leadership away from evil. Make no mistake, all leadership comes from values. It is not for American values to change, but for American policy to change by aligning with what we already know true American values to be. Politicians will tell you that it is in our interest for them to exert control, both at home and abroad. You know this to be utter and unadulterated bullshit. Other Americans sense it, and the rest of the world is tired of it. For this reason, ours is a government that operates not in the light, but in the shadows, silencing competing voices, prosecuting whistleblowers, murdering resistant forces. Ours is a government that operates not in our interest, but in the interest of the instruments of power itself. Maintaining the expense and obligation of supporting NATO 30 years beyond its sell-by date. Maintaining the expense and obligation of supporting Ukraine in a war neither of our making nor of our defense. Maintaining the expense and the obligation of supporting a policy of strategic ambiguity toward the independence of Taiwan. maintaining the expense and the obligation of supporting a military-industrial complex, a veritable war machine capable of defeating the rest of the world combined. Ours is a government that operates not to minimize the probability of nuclear war, but to maximize the chances of winning a nuclear exchange. It is not in the interest of peace to deploy so-called conventional weapons that so outpace our adversaries that they imagine no other recourse than tactical nuclear weapons. It is not in the interest of peace to continue to widen the gap between American dominance and the ability of rivals who would themselves exert regional influence. It is not in the interest of peace to posture before other nations so as to invoke fear in their populations. It is not in the interest of peace to adopt the world's subjugation as our objective. And because our government's policy is not in the interest of peace, it can never be in the interest of us. Today, here in this place, us means a coalition of Americans and others with little more in common than an understanding of the misalignment of American foreign policy with American values. If we share no other common understanding, let it be that such misalignment will always and everywhere undermine the interests of us as Americans. Only peace can allow the ingredients required for prosperity to spread. Only peace can allocate the resources our economy requires to grow. Only peace can achieve the framework our society needs to develop. Only peace can apply the values our culture cherishes. Only peace can afford the attention our children deserve. Only peace can advance the future of which each and every one of us dreams. A policy that does not align with our long-term interests can never fulfill the best of what America can be, and can never provide the leadership the world needs from America. The world is ready for a message of peace, and Americans are ready to send that message. We are ready to give peace a try because we have been failed by the war machine, a machine that has brought us abject failure in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, a machine that has poured blood onto our hands. So too have we been failed by a corporate machine that has robbed us of our resources, a machine that has robbed us of the opportunity to lead the world toward prosperity. We have been failed by a political machine that has robbed us of the simple dignity of being represented by a foreign policy that reflects our values as Americans. And we have been failed by a media machine that has robbed us of the truth, a truth that embarrasses us with failure, offends us with aggression, diminishes us through control of politicians, and insults us by doing so with our own resources. The time has come to put an end to the reign of the political class, the woke prosecutors, the political self-dealers, the war machine militarists, the crony capitalists, the administrative chieftains, and the money-printing royalty, the self-obsessed media snobs, and the self-appointed victim seers, the entitlement peddlers, and the snake oil pharmaceuticals. The time has come and the time is now for the encroachment on our values and the erosion of our very sovereignty. Sovereignty over our policies, both foreign and domestic, continues apace. Politicians continue the construction of institutions of control. Corporations continue the construction of relationships of manipulation. The media continue the construction of narratives of justification. The wicked sleep not, and so must not we. Sleep not, peace seekers and value keepers. Sleep not, family makers and business builders. Sleep not, patriots, nationalists, liberals, and libertarians like you. Sleep not, my fellow Americans, sleep not, fellow citizens of the world. Sleep not, for the time has come to turn the tables. No longer can we afford to accept the authoritarianism of the political class to declare war on behalf of our nation. to declare war on our values, to declare war effectively on us. The time has come for us to be the ones to declare that war on their values, on their disdain, on their presumptions to authority, on their institutions, on their apparatus, on their agencies, on their administration. The time has come for us to declare war on their state. Thank you.
Thank you so much, presidential candidate Mike Termott. We must remember that we, the people, must wake the heck up and realize that we have the power and that we must have peace, but only through the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Malcolm Byrne. He is a peace activist. He is a human rights advocate, and he is a Grammy Award-winning producer and record artist. Thank you so much for coming to speak.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm going to start my timer so I don't go overboard here. As I was standing here listening to everybody, I was looking up at that tree right there, and I was thinking about a passage in the Bible where it says that God gave dominion over all life on earth to us human beings, and I was thinking of that little bird up in that tree and wondering what it would say if it knew what we were talking about here. Anyway. I want to dedicate this to Julian Assange, still Assange and his family, by the way. For as long as Julian is in prison, we have not a leg to stand on as far as freedom goes in the rest of the world. The title of this is called "The Lunatics Have Taken Over the Asylum." It's a song by Terry Hall, Neville Staples, and Linville Golding, the 80s band Fun Boy 3. And the lyrics to the song go, "See a clinic full of cynics who want to twist the people's wrist. They're watching every move we make. We're all included on the list. The lunatics have taken over the asylum. No nuclear cowboy told us, and who am I to disagree? Because when the madman flips the switch, the nuclear will go for me. The lunatics have taken over the asylum. I've seen the faces of starvation, but I just cannot see the point. Because there's so much food here today that no one wants to take away. The lunatics have taken over the asylum." That song could very easily have been written just yesterday. And for me, the song perfectly encapsulates the complete madness that's overtaken almost all of our Western leaders, minds and souls, whose collective disconnect from reality, replaced by hubris and greed, seems to open up a Pandora's box of evils. A very early accounting in Homer's Iliad of the contents of Pandora's box reads as such, and I quote, "On the floor of Jove's palace there stand two urns, the one filled with evil gifts, and the other with good ones. He for whom Jove, the Lord of thunder, mixes the gifts he sends, will meet now with good and now with evil fortune. For he to whom Jove sends none but evil gifts will be pointed at by the finger of scorn. The hand of famine will pursue him to the ends of the world, and he will go up and down the face of the earth, respected neither by God nor by man." End of quote. It seems rather convincing to argue that the story of the Iliad may be instructional to us in this present moment as to the final outcome of the so-called special military operation in Ukraine, if one were simply to substitute NATO for the Greeks and the Russians for the Trojans. The Iliad's plot follows several weeks near the end of the Trojan War. Agamemnon insults Achilles, Achilles refuses to fight, and the Greeks begin to die quickly. Patroclus disguises himself as Achilles and leads the Greeks into battle, only to be killed by Hector. Achilles, enraged, kills Hector in revenge. The lunatics have taken over the battlefield. Of course, none of this can come close to describing the utter horror and destruction that Ukraine now endures, ostensibly, at least as far as the general public's mass consumption is concerned, to defend freedom and democracy from those who would do us harm. However, one need only do a perfunctory scanning of the daily videos uploaded to military channels on open spaces and platforms such as Telegram to find images of human beings literally being squashed like bugs, melted to the insides of armored personnel carriers and tanks, and to see desperate human, fragile, mortal frames being annihilated at an alarming rate by the overwhelming firepower of the Russian military, who are outgunning, outmanning, and methodically destroying what was, prior to February 2022, NATO's largest and best trained military force, second only to the United States of America. Arms, legs, and bodies are being randomly blown to bits by landmines, drones, rockets, as terrified civilians caught in this tragic whirlwind orgy of destruction, all in the name of corporate profits and delusional neocon ideology, which now even flirts with the bizarre notion of unlimited nuclear war, a war which has become something like a kind of belief-based religion to individuals such as President Biden, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, Victoria Nuland, Bill Kristol, and the other usual suspects. You've just got to know something is wrong when Henry Kissinger ends up on your Christmas list. And to what aim exactly? To neutralize Russia, the largest and most mineral resource rich and heavily armed nuclear power on Earth, to then open up that country for business and endless corruption and money laundering, much like what Ukraine has now become. A fool's errand is a mild descriptor of this madness. And yes, the lunatics have indeed taken over the asylum. And how else can one rationalize the irrational? Sadly, the general public seems to have given up even trying to understand events. Not through any fault of their own, but I think rather from a mixture of endless propaganda, the likes of which even the great journalist John Pilger told me in a recent interview last year that he's never before seen in his long career as a journalist, having previously covered the wars in Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq, to name but a few. There's a 2002 documentary by British filmmaker Adam Curtis entitled The Century of the Self, in which Curtis correlates the original Freudian hypotheses that humans make the most crucial decisions in life based not on rational thought, but rather on emotional responses and impulses. How else would one explain that buying the latest model Tesla will make one sexually attractive to the other sex? Edward Bernays, Sigmund Freud's American nephew, is heavily featured in the film, is known as the architect of public relations. One of Bernays' first major achievements was helping the Wilson administration sway the general public in supporting America's entry into World War I. Bernays was also highly successful in using PR to convince millions of young women to smoke, all based on the Freudian theory that the most critical decisions we make in life are based on the irrational sexual impulses that drive our innermost desires. By the time the 30s rolled around, the Nazis, ever the great innovators, used these same principles to convince millions of other sane, rational individuals to follow a madman into oblivion, taking tens of millions of lives with them, of which approximately 27 million were Russians. The method that the Nazis used was termed propaganda, and to this day, the word PR and propaganda are interchangeable. As Bernays wrote, and I quote, "The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country," end quote. To anyone who might say that the beginning process of de-escalation between NATO and Russia is simply a form of appeasement, I say take a look at North and South Korea, which have been in a ceasefire for more than 70 years. It may not be the perfect solution, but the alternative is too frightening to even contemplate. Exceptionalism has no place in this new multipolar world that we now inhabit. We must honor the International Declaration of Human Rights, which states in its first article, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. And so, I leave you with this one last quote, knowing that lunatics have indeed taken over the asylum. This is from the great humanist of the 16th century, William Shakespeare, taken from The Tempest, Act 4, Scene 2. Oh, wonder how many godly creatures are there, how beauteous mankind is. Oh, brave new world that has such people in it. Thank you. Keep up the pace.
Thank you so much.
Run off the net.
Thank you so much, Malcolm Byrne. It is inspiring to us to realize that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Our next guest and amazing speaker is J.R. Heffelfinger. He is the award-winning director of the film 815, Hiroshima, From Father to Daughter. Thank you so much for speaking.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe I should wait for that song to stop. Should I wait for it or should I just go for it? Okay. This might be the last verse.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's my favorite song.
Wait, explain to the live stream why we're waiting.
Oh, we're waiting on the live stream just because there's a really long song coming from my church across the street. I'm pretty sure that's live, right? That's probably live music. Okay. So earlier this year, on January 24, 2023, the doomsday clock was moved to 90 seconds before midnight. And that is the closest it has ever been since its inception in 1947. Today, as we gather to remember the tragic event that unfolded on this day 78 years ago, the bombing of Hiroshima and shortly thereafter Nagasaki, we are reminded of the power of memory, the significance of our shared humanity, and the resounding call for a lasting peace. John Hersey, American writer and journalist, said, "What has kept the world safe from the bomb since 1945 has not been deterrence in any sense of fear of specific weapons, so much as it's been memory, the memory of what happened at Hiroshima." So my name is J.R. Heffelfinger, and I am the director of a new film called 815 Hiroshima, From Father to Daughter, based on the book, thank you. There it goes. That was a poster. Based on the book by Dr. Akiko Mikamo. The film is a first-person account of the horrors of nuclear war and the resilience of the human spirit, told through the experiences of her father, Hibakusha Shinji Mikamo. 815 begins airing today on PBS stations across the United States. I urge you all to see it and hear Shinji's message, the power of love and forgiveness, and his wish for world peace. So to learn more about the film, please visit 815documentary.com. So I began my speech with the performance of Auld Lang Syne, a song often shared at the dawn of new beginnings. And as we reflect upon the anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, let us remember that our world stands on the precipice. Though the hands of time move closer to midnight, we are reminded that our shared destiny is in our hands. So there's a quote by Horace Mann that serves as my North Star, and I'd like to share it with you. He said, "Be ashamed to die until winning some victory for humanity." Now, I'm sure this concept has been said in different ways and with different words, but this concept has echoed through the corridors of time. These words urge us to carry the torch of progress, to strive for a better world, where the horrors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are not repeated, where justice, compassion, and peace are cherished and celebrated and are real. So may the bravery we exhibit, the revolutionary acts of love and compassion we express and reflect in our lives, serve as our clarion call, urging all of us to awaken from the slumber of complacency and embrace the urgency of the moment and make our voices heard. So be ashamed to die until winning some victory for humanity. Thank you, and may peace be your guiding light. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We must watch the horrors of what humanity does to each other so that we can try and remember that there's no reason for us to destroy the lives of others here or abroad. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Jose Vega. He's an interventionist. He is an amazing, brilliant peace activist. He single-handedly does everything for us, and I am so honored to be the one to announce him, and he literally is my favorite human. Thank you so much, Jose.
Okay. Oh. Thank you. All right, Dave. You gotta let me talk first. And actually, before I begin anything, none of this would have been possible. None of us would be here right now if it wasn't for Irene and Anastasia. Yes, please give them all the rounds of the applause. They deserve it all. I'm honored to be the last person to close us out. And I also want to thank people like Jimmy Dore, who put me on his show. It allowed us to raise the funds that we needed to put on this rally. And if people can continue to support us and donate us for the next action that we put on, because this does not end here. What we've done here is we've set up an amazing foundation and beginning for a process, a continuous process. In the last minute, all of you came together to help organize this rally. I went on Jimmy Dore's show to put out a plea. I said, if you can organize this rally, we'll see what happens in the future. What did that lead to? It came into last-minute endorsements from some high-profile people. And that was because of you. RFK Jr. gave an endorsement of this rally, which we played at the beginning of the live stream. We didn't play it here for the people, but we played it for the live stream, and hopefully people after this can go and see that. We had other people endorsing this rally, like Jimmy Dore, as I said. You know, we've had people from the Gray Zone endorse this rally as well. And so what today is a declaration around the world that humanity declares peace as the only way forward. We are a pro-peace rally, not necessarily just anti-war. To be pro-peace, of course, includes anti-war. But pro-peace means pro-development around the world. It means getting rid of world hunger. It means making sure that everybody has an equal right to education and access to some of the best sources and tools around the world today. And, you know, one of the things that we're having after this rally is we are having the Mozart Requiem. Since today happens to be the 78th anniversary of the Hiroshima bombing, Mozart's Requiem is very fitting because Mozart didn't write the music for those who have passed away. He wrote it for the living. It's a remembrance song. And one of the sections you'll hear from the Requiem goes as follows: eternal grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. That is for all of you to remember those that have fallen before us, those who've perished in an awful tragedy, something that should never happen again. For you to remember them and act in their name and act in their image and keep their image alive. That's what we're here for. That's what this rally is a declaration of. And today, we face something much, much worse, the extinction of the entire human race. You know, there's a book called From No High Ground. Hiroshima, it says in the book, Hiroshima had been spared the most faithful results of the war, while almost every other urban area in Japan had been bombed by the B-29. Hiroshima had felt the concussions of only 12 enemy missiles in 3.5 years of war. And only about a dozen people had been killed. And then what happened? Out of nowhere, as a surprise, this bomb came down. And then 3 days later in Nagasaki, killing over 200,000 people. It came out of nowhere. And our circumstances today are no different because a bomb will just happen out of nowhere. And Scott Ritter can tell you a whole lot more about that. But what makes me optimistic about this world that we live in today is that not only here in New York City, but we've had dozens of sister rallies around the world gathering, all making the same formal declaration: no more bombs, no more war. Peace is our solution, and peace is the answer. And so we demand nothing less than peace. A lot has been said today, but I think the biggest expression, or the best expression that came out of today, was the expression of love from every single speaker that has been felt around the world. We meet here today in front of the United Nations to tell the world that this is an international process that started here today. And so I just want to end off by saying thank all of you, because this is a worldwide effort. It's not just centered here in New York City, not just centered around the people who are gathered around me right now. It is the entire world crying out that today we have focused our efforts into one guided laser to tell the world peace, not war, and not violence. So please join me today at 6 o'clock at All Souls Church for the Mozart Requiem. I will be singing in it. Other than that, please continue to spread the love and the momentum we've built here today. We carry it forward because this is the beginning of a process. It doesn't end here. It only starts here. And I'm so excited to see where we go after this. I'm so excited to see what all of you are going to do and organize in the name of peace and in the name of humanity. And so with that, folks, this has been Humanity for Peace.
We're going to do some closing remarks. Humanity for Peace represents something new. It's a new movement. What everyone should realize here is that the coalition that forms the basis of Humanity for Peace consists of groups from across the political spectrum, from the left, the right, the middle, and the like. The rallies for Humanity for Peace are all across the world and this nation. And this rally represents the beginning of the movement, where we will take human action to collect ourselves into groups of people that will implement real change in our legislatures, our governments, state, local, and federal. Thank you so much for coming, Anastasia.
Yes. Thank you, Irene Mavrakakis. I couldn't have done this without you. This has been an amazing event. I'm actually been trying the whole day not to cry, looking at everybody else in the audience and everybody coming here today. Bravo. Thank you. Thank you. Thank all of you for coming out today and refusing to give in to all of this nonsense. All of this nonsense has been shoved down our throats to prevent people from action. And so, like other speakers, I want to encourage, I too am an interventionist. I want to encourage others to join us in nonviolent direct action. This is a new movement for peace that has come about in the world. We must organize like crazy to stop nuclear war. And we're planning more events. Coming up September 1st, we'll be planning an event. Please keep your eyes and ears out. We will let you know. Make sure you sign up on the website. We will keep you involved, humanityforpeace.net, and we'll be planning more rallies and interventions around the world as well. Thank you. Join us at the church today at 6.
We'd like to invite all the speakers to come up to take a picture together to show unity. If you can please come up and we'll take a picture. Thank you so much. And then we can have crowds and organizers join subsequent. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. God is good.
I'm here for my picture.